This is the Chuck Smith Show on Cape Atlantic Live, giving you the latest news on all things Mainland Regional Football. Now here's your host, Nick Kosko, and Mustangs head coach, Chuck Smith.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and with me, as always, is Mainland Mustangs head coach Chuck Smith, the undefeated Mainland Mustangs, still here at 7-0, going to the final home stretch here of the regular season 2023. Coach, appreciate your time as always. Big win over Appliance on the road, old school matchup between Cape Atlantic teams. That's a United Division game. They actually clinched a share of the title at minimum for you guys for the remainder of the year. So obviously a pretty big win on Friday going down to the final two games of the year.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. It was a big win for us going out to Appliance, playing on beautiful new field they had there. And everything clicked right for us the other night, both on offense, defense, special teams. Just one of those nights that was good for Mainland.
Yeah, no doubt. You guys absolutely rolled. Another shutout victory for you guys. What was the message to those guys? I remember we were talking about this last week, knowing that you had to play a short week, of course. That Bridgeton game got moved to that Monday at your home field. Basically two games in 5 days. Tough turnaround for you guys, but obviously you guys came out swinging and really didn't let up the entire night.
Yeah, it was a tough week for us. It was a very packed week for us. Having a game on Monday, and we got back on the field on Tuesday. And we had a modified practice. Obviously, we watched some film, went on the field a little bit later. Didn't really hit it all. Wednesday was a normal Wednesday routine for us, and Thursday. And then you're kind of worried, are you going to be too tired by the time the game comes around? Usually, you have a little bit more rest time. We were in pretty good health. Coming out of the Bridgeton game, going into the Appliance game. And, it was just the guys responded well to it. I was a little leery about that, having such a short week, because I don't ever remember a time that we ever played 2 games in a 5-day period before. I was kind of a little leery of how the guys would be responding to that. But they responded well, obviously.
You usually mention how Saturdays are reserved for, kind of get the body right, watch a little film, and then you have Sundays off. I'm assuming you guys went back to the normal routine here, or was there a little bit extra time off, knowing that these guys were, swinging and hitting all that good stuff for twice in 5 days?
Yeah, it was kind of, it was a thought for me to give them off on a Saturday following the Appliance game, just because of the week that we had. We really went like 7 days in a row, and but then I just thought, we'll just bring them in. Get back to our normal thing, because all of us like to be in our schedule, and I hate, because then if you miss Saturday and you got to kind of do something else on Monday just to make up that lost time. So we went back to our normal thing. We just came in Saturday morning, watched film of the game against Appliance, did our little workout routine, running and lifting, and sent the kids home before noon. And then they had their normal Sunday off and rested up.
Absolutely. So Clearview is coming up this week. Before we get into that, just, who really stood out in this game against Appliance? Of course, Gammy, very high-powered attack on offense, as we talked about last week. The passing game is there. Kendall Armstrong has been really airing it out. They have a lot of talented receivers. Unfortunately, I don't think they had their starter at running back this past week, so they kind of had to go to a new approach. But still, that passing game is usually there. They hit a couple big plays, but other than that, you guys pretty much shut them down in the secondary, and obviously the pass rush certainly got through as well.
Yeah, our defense did an outstanding job. I mean, I think we held them to minus yardage on the ground and only 88 yards through the air. It was. I think we only gave up something like 40-some yards of offense the other night, and as a tribute to our defense. I mean, they were relentless all night long. Hunter Watson led the way. I think he had something like 5 or 6 tackles, 5 tackles for losses. Couple sacks in there. Zach Hodges, same thing. Dan DeFeo. Our defensive line really stood out. And then our linebackers played well also. J.J. Sinclair and Rocco DiBiaso played well also. And then you add into that our secondary play, knowing that they had a pretty potent passing attack coming into it. We really had a lot of emphasis, a lot of Skelly time, pass Skelly time during the week, working coverage schemes and routines and so forth. And the guys did very well with it. We had couple interceptions, a pick 6 between Antonio Tartaglia and Jamie Tyson on the outsides of corner. They really did a tremendous job against Appliance.
Let's actually take a look at that pick 6 you were referring to. This is Jamie Tyson, and it's pretty much a play where only he really saw the football. It kind of just surprisingly bounced out of the receiver's hands here.
Yeah, it was a 3rd and long play, and Jamie had a big cushion there, and we just got that fortunate bounce, and Jamie was alert, picked it right off went off the receiver's hands and landed into Jamie's hands, and he took off down that sideline. When he gets going, gets that running stride going, there's very few people are going to catch him. Just a great heads up play by him.
Yeah, I was actually about to say, I mean, his speed, I think, is immaculate. I mean, he had to have been the fastest guy on the field, at least on that night. I mean, no one was going to catch him at this point.
Yeah, even the cameraman, Matt Ulmer, couldn't keep up with him on that one. But yeah, he did a nice job. Jamie had a great game the other night on both sides of the ball. And, he's one of our guys. Every football team has a few guys. It's a team concept, obviously, but you need a couple guys on your team that play a little bit above an average football player. And Jamie's been our guy for the past couple of seasons, but he's really turning into an elite performer out there.
All right, Coach, now that we turn our attention over to Clearview on Friday, of course, very interesting matchup. These are big boys across the board, only 2-4 on the year, but it's obviously a talented team on offense as far as I've seen so far. So another challenge for your defense, looking at Tyler Dell, their quarterback. He's a dual threat, can throw a little bit, obviously likes to run the football. Sean Ralph, I believe you guys have seen him before. He's their bell cow. You also look at O'Brien Brown, another guy who's going to get the ball in the backfield. So it seems like that's the key trio that your defense is going to have to stop on Friday night.
Yeah, we have our hands full of Clearview. Their record's deceiving. They've had a lot of close losses. Their offense is a balanced attack between a little bit of RPO action and the run action with the running back who we saw in the past, and I can't wait for him to graduate because I'm tired of seeing him. But he's good. I saw him. He's had a lot of big runs. He's got a burst of speed. He's a return guy on kickoff and punt return also. And the quarterback throws a nice ball. And the thing with them is they bring some physicality to the game. This will probably be the biggest team we've faced size-wise across the board on both sides of the ball. And, they're well coached. And watching film of them, you can just see it in the way they line up, their stances, their technique, and so forth. So we got our hands full. We're expecting a physical ball game on Friday night. Our defense will scheme to stop their run game, obviously, and put them into passing situations. But on offense, we got the same thing. We got to control the line of scrimmage. It's probably the biggest defensive line that we face between their nose guard, their 2 tackles, and their 2 defensive ends. That is the strength of their defense. So we're in for a battle on Friday night.
No doubt. So we'll talk more about this game on the other side of this break. This is the Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live.
This Cape Atlantic Live production of Mainland Regional Football is brought to you by Charlie's Bar and Restaurant, The Docks Place, Orio's Bar and Grill, Shore Orthopedic, Golden Nugget Atlantic City Casino Hotel and Marina, Edmunds GovTech, Darcy Johnson Day Law Firm, and Ulmer's Appliance Service.
Welcome back to the Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live. Nick Kosko alongside, of course, Mainland head coach Chuck Smith. So, Coach, just to get a little bit more into the weeds of how your defense is going to operate on Friday, you mentioned how the pass rush was so good against Absegami. This team in Clearview, not going to be as pass-happy as Absegami, so it seems on paper right now. But you mentioned the RPO game and the way this team is able to kind of keep defenses honest. I feel like that's got to be a time where your defense, which is very opportunistic and, of course, pass rush heavy, I mean, you're probably have to tell these guys, look, I mean, if you can get a sack, but also we might have to stay in our own zone and not break contain here.
Yeah, it's a conundrum for us, really. They run the ball well, and what they don't do a lot of things, but they do those things well. And then you add that element of the RPO, so they get you baited with the run game, and next thing you know, they're pulling it and throwing it and they have a variety of RPO schemes that are good, So we really have to play a disciplined football game. A lot of times when we play a passing team, you can kind of pin your ears back and let certain guys really tee off and go and play the coverage behind them. And we really can't do that this week. We got to really stay focused, attention to detail, and play our positions well. We really have to stay disciplined in our position play this week.
So looking at the offensive side of things, you guys obviously week to week will open up the pass game a little bit with quarterback John Franchini, but of course you're MO and your identity is that run game led by Steven Ordilli. Obviously, you throw in Cohen Cook and Rocco DiBiase, as well as about 3 other guys, including J.J. Sinclair, who got actually a couple more carries against Abs game, which was actually really cool to see, at least up from the booth. Offensively, you mentioned the size was going to be the biggest concern up front for Clearview. The front seven is very opportunistic, as well as you guys. They're obviously very physical as well. Record deceiving, as you mentioned before. Game plan offensive this week, I got to imagine it's pretty much, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, well, you go into a game and, even though we've been winning, there's always things we need to address week to week. Nothing's ever perfect. There's always a scheme here or a technique we got to fix or a path of a running back or something like that, or route running, protection schemes. There's always something to tweak and enhance. And, when you get to this point in the season, you kind of are what you are at this time. Sometimes in the beginning of the season, you're still trying to figure out what's your strength, on either side of the ball. And as you get deeper into the season, you become what you are for that year, what you have team wise. And, obviously we're a run heavy team. I mean, there's no secret about that. The past couple of weeks, we've thrown the ball a little bit more, because we know we're going to need to be efficient at that when the big games come in a couple of weeks here. And I thought we threw the ball well against Bridgeton. I thought we threw the ball extremely well against Absegami. Our protection was there, and our quarterback was there, and our route running was there. So the pieces were in play there. And I think into this week, when you're facing a tough physical team like this, you have to be well balanced offensively. You can't go in there with that caveman attitude. You're just going to pound the rock nonstop, against a big physical team, because we are not a big physical team. We're well with what we do, but, toe to toe, we might get out muscled here and there. So we have to come in with a very balanced offensive attack in order to be successful Friday.
Absolutely. So not to look too far ahead to the playoffs, of course. I mean, pretty much you guys are near the top right now, and the chips will fall wherever they may. But that doesn't come for another couple of weeks. This is the final home game for you guys until the postseason. Then it obviously all depend on where you guys stand in the playoff bracket as to how many home games you have remaining after that, as long as you guys keep winning, of course. So is there something special knowing that I guess it is kind of – this has to be senior night, right, other than wherever the playoffs have down the line, right?
We have our senior night like the first home game, but this is homecoming this week. Yeah. And our football alumni club hands out a MVP for the homecoming games. There's a trophy to be had. There'll be a lot of fanfare, obviously, with the school. This whole week has been Spirit Week at school. They'll do the homecoming king and queen and the whole court and all that stuff. And we have youth night at the Corral this week too. So we're supposed to have it at Bridgeton, and it got rained out. And I didn't want to move it to that Monday. So we're hosting all the youth kids this week also, which is a lot of fun, to have all the kids from Linwood, Northfield, and Summers Point to come out and support our football team. They'll be on the field for all the pregame activities that we do. And then we'll bring them inside the school for the pregame routine. And also, just to give them a taste of what it's like to play at the next level. And it's a lot of fun. I know my guys look forward to it. We talked about this before. They don't realize how they are in the eyes of these little kids that, the kids that play for the Sharks, Cardinals, and Panthers. And now these guys are like their heroes, and it's really neat when you're on the sideline, you hear the kids all yelling out the kids' names while they're doing their drills or whatever. And so it'll be a lot of excitement on Friday night. And, whatever happens with the playoffs happens with the playoffs. It's a fun time of the year because everybody's like looking on the website, looking at Gridiron, where we at, who's won the 16, who's got to play who coming up. All that stuff, and trying to figure out what could happen. It's not as easy as the old days before this new PowerPoint system where you could really sit there and know how many residual points somebody was going to have, how many points they were going to get from a win and stuff. You could really almost to a T get it. But we have a couple math wizards in our at our disposal who have been figuring this out, and they've been pretty dead on with it. So, and we have kind of a figure in our head, we got to take care of our own business, obviously, but it's exciting, because every Saturday we come in, we sit there. Okay, this is what happened. This is where we are. Okay. This is what the bracket looks like now. What if, right. But the reality of it is we got 2 more weeks to get through this. It's kind of like, in a weird way, it's like a football Christmas, it
does feel like that.
Can't wait for that to happen and see what's going on. And all of a sudden, that day comes when all of a sudden the bracket comes out and the chips fall where they fall, and then you just deal with it from there.
Yeah, you're about a little more than 2 weeks away from that. So, of course, Clearview this Friday at EHT to conclude the regular season. That, of course, will be for the Kiwanis Trophy, a classic rivalry game here in South Jersey. And the playoffs are very interesting to me because you mentioned how you need the math wizards now. I have an old colleague who basically does that up for the Central Jersey area teams, and he's pretty much dead on. And I'm sitting back here trying to figure it out, and I'll snake it wrong. I have all the wrong matchups. I'm just like, well, at this point, I feel like a coach just like you, where you say, as long as we keep winning, you're going to be in a good position. And I feel like
exactly.
that's basically the mode for you guys for these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, we like to. I mean, we love playing at home. Who doesn't? And if we can take care of these next 2 weeks, hopefully we're home for the playoffs. We'll see what happens. You always need a little luck also.
Absolutely.
To fall your way with it. And a couple things happened in a couple games last weekend, which we benefited from. But we'll see what happens. There's still 2 more weeks in the season. Crazy things can happen. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Last one for you, coaches. I'm actually curious about your take on this. That the slight change to the playoffs this year was the state semifinals are now hosted at the higher seed. Now, again, that's ways away. We're talking deep into October, if not November at this point. For that, actually, that will be November. Excuse me. So when we look at that and knowing that that could be a possibility, and I'm not saying that's a guarantee for Mainland. It's not a guarantee for Millville. It's not a guarantee for pretty much anybody. Again, you have to wait till the standings are there. But the fact that the state said, you know what, we're going to put the state semifinals at the home field of whoever's the higher seed remaining before you go to Rutgers or you go to MetLife for the state championship. I feel like that's more high school football-esque. I feel like that's just great for those communities and wherever school ends up getting that much luckier to be able to host a game that late.
Yeah, it's neat. You benefit from having a great season. And you don't know what's going to happen. A 2 seed could wind up hosting all the way through.
Right.
If there's upsets and things like that. I like it because you win out and you get rewarded for it, whoever that might be. That higher seed.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of. I mean, even though we had a great crowd at Cherokee last year for our game against Millville, both stands were packed. On a very, very cold day. But you still went to this other place. I think it's really neat when you can be at somebody's home field, even when you're the opponent, going to somebody's home field, because there's just that much more excitement, when you're there. I can remember years ago when we had to go to various colleges to play in the championship games. And it was kind of, to me, it lost the feel of it because you're in a big stadium. And it's a great venue to play in, but it's empty. You walk into these places and you're bringing maybe 1,000 or so fans because you're on the road someplace far that not as many people can come to. Like the one year we played Ocean City in the championship in '99, we played up at Rutgers. There was maybe 1,000 people there, where if that game was played down here somewhere, there would have been 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people at that game. So it's kind of, I like it better that it's this way. The state championship is what it is, wherever it goes, but I like it when it's at somebody's home field. I just think it's more like a high school feel to everything.
Yeah, I feel like the way since they expanded it to the total state champion for each group now, I guess a big stadium does make sense. College stadium, or obviously if you go to MetLife as well, that does make sense at this point. As far as what you were talking about, sectional championships or even state semifinals, I think it's pretty cool to have it, either at your home turf or if you go, say if you guys went to Millville or something, that'd be like, okay, now we're only going right down the road, and this is for almost all the marbles here in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah, and for those people who are like football junkies, high school football junkies, to have a state championship at one venue where you're playing a few games and you can see a couple really high caliber type football programs playing, that's awesome. That really is. But I think, with the sectional championships and stuff like that, I'm glad they're like at the home fields of the higher seed.
Absolutely. All right, so that's going to do it for us. Clearview on Friday at the Corral, 6 p.m. Catch it right here on Cape Atlantic Live. Coach, appreciate the time. As always, good luck. We'll see you out there on the field. Good to be back home for you guys in Linwood, and regular season winding down, almost playoffs. And like you said, it's basically football Christmas at this point, so enjoy it.
Hey, I appreciate it, Nick. Thanks for everything you do.
Absolutely. Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live.